Bible in a Year, the Message version. Daily reading of March 2nd. Leviticus 25, verse 47 through chapter 27 through verse 13. If a foreigner or temporary resident among you becomes rich and one of your brothers becomes poor and sells himself to the foreigner who lives among you or to a member of the foreigner's clan, he still has the right of redemption after he sold himself. One of his relatives may buy him back. An uncle or a cousin or a close relative of his extended family may redeem him. Or, if he gets the money together, he can redeem himself. What happens then is that he and his owner count out the time from the year he sold himself to the year of Jubilee. The buyback price is set according to the wages of a hired hand for the number of years. If many years remain before the Jubilee, he must pay back a larger share of his purchase price. But if only a few years remain until the Jubilee, he has to calculate his redemption price accordingly. He is to be treated as a man hired from year to year. You must make sure that his owner does not tyrannize him. If he is not redeemed in any of these ways, he goes free in the year of Jubilee, he and his children, because the people of Israel are my servants whom I brought out of Egypt. I am God, your God. Don't make idols for yourself. Don't set up an image or a sacred pillow for yourselves. And don't place carved stones in your land that you bow down to worship. I am God, your God. Keep my Sabbaths. Treat my sanctuary with reverence. I am God, your God. If you live by my decrees and obediently keep my commandments, I will send the rains in seasons, the ground will yield its crops, and the trees of the field their fruit. You will thresh until the grape harvest, and the grape harvest will continue until planting time. You'll have more than enough to eat and will live safe and secure in your land. I'll make the country a place of peace. You'll be able to go to sleep at night without fear. I'll get rid of the wild beasts and I'll eliminate war. You'll chase out your enemies and defeat them. 5 of you will chase 100, and 100 of you will chase 10,000 and do away with them. I'll give you my full attention. I'll make sure you prosper, make sure you grow in numbers, and keep my covenants with you in good working order. You'll still be eating from last year's harvest when you have to clean out the barns to make room for the new crops. I'll set up my residence in your neighborhood. I won't avoid or shun you. I'll stroll through your streets. I'll be your God. You'll be my people. I am God, your personal God, who rescued you from Egypt so that you would no longer be slaves to the Egyptians. I'll rip off the hardness of the slavery so that you can move about freely. But if you refuse to obey me and won't observe my commandments, despising my decrees and holding my law in contempt, by your disobedience, making shambles of my covenant, I'll step in and pour on the trouble, debilitating disease, high fevers, blindness, your life leaking out bit by bit. You'll plant seed, but your enemies will eat the crops. I'll turn my back on you and stand by while your enemies defeat you. People who hate you will govern you. You'll run scared even when there's no one chasing you. And if none of this works in getting your attention, I'll discipline you 7 times over for your sin. I'll break your strong pride. I'll make the skies above you like a sheet of tin and the ground under you like cast iron. No matter how hard you work, nothing will come of it. No crops out of the ground, no fruit off the trees. If you defy me and refuse to listen, your punishment will be 7 times more than your sins. I'll set wild animals on you. They'll rob you of your children, kill your cattle, and decimate your numbers until you'll think you're living in a ghost town. And if even this doesn't work, and you refuse my discipline and continue your defiance, then it will be my turn to defy you. Yes, I will punish you for your sins 7 times over. I'll let war loose on you, avenging your breaking of the covenant When you huddle in your cities for protection, I'll send a deadly epidemic on you, and you'll be helpless before your enemies. When I cut off your bread supply, 10 women will bake bread in one oven and ration it out. You'll eat but barely. No one will get enough. And if this, even this, doesn't work, and you still won't listen, still defy me, I'll have had enough, and in hot anger will defy you, punishing you for your sins 7 times over. Famine will be so severe that you'll end up cooking and eating your sons in stews and your daughters in barbecues. I'll smash your sects and religion shrines and all the paraphernalia that goes with them, and then stack your corpse and the idol corpses in the same place. I'll abhor you. I'll turn your cities into rubble. I'll clean out your sanctuaries. I'll hold my nose at the pleasing aroma of your sacrifices. I'll turn your land into a lifeless moonscape. Your enemies will come in and take over and be shocked at what they see. I'll scatter you all over the world and keep after you with the point of my sword in your back. There'll be nothing left in your hand, nothing going on in your cities. With you gone and dispersed in the countries of your enemies, the land empty of you will finally get a break and enjoy its Sabbath years. All the time it's left there empty, the land will get rest, the Sabbath it never got when you lived there. As for those living among you, still alive, I'll give them over to fearful timidity. Even the rustle of a leaf will throw them into a panic. They'll run here and there, back and forth, as if running for their lives, even though no one is after them, tripping and falling over one another in total confusion. You won't stand a chance against an enemy. You'll perish among the nations. The land of your enemies will eat you up. Any who are left will slowly rot away in the enemy lands. Rot, all because of their sins compounded by their ancestors' sins. On the other hand, if they confess their sins and the sins of their ancestors, their treacherous betrayal, the defiance that set them off my defiance and sent them into enemy lands, if by some chance they soften their hard hearts and make amends for their sins, I'll remember my covenant with Jacob. I'll remember my covenant with Isaac, and yes, I'll remember my covenant with Abraham. I'll remember the land. The land will be empty of them and enjoy its Sabbath while they're gone. They'll pay for their sins because they refused my laws and treated my decrees with contempt. But in spite of their behavior, while they were among their enemies, I won't reject or abhor or destroy them completely. I won't break my covenant with them. I am God, their God. For their sake I will remember the covenant with their ancestors, whom I, with all the nations watching, brought out of Egypt in order to be their God. I am God. These are the decrees, laws, and instructions that God established between himself and the people of Israel through Moses at Mount Sinai. God spoke to Moses. He said, "Speak to the people of Israel. Tell them, if anyone wants to vow the value of a person to the service of God, set the value of a man between the ages of 20 and 60, 50 shekels of silver, according to the sanctuary shekel. For a woman, the value is 30 shekels. If the person is between the ages of 5 and 20, set the value at 20 shekels for a male and 10 shekels for a female. If the person is between 1 month and 5 years, set the value at 5 shekels of silver for a boy and 3 shekels of silver for a girl. If the person is over 60, set the value at 50 shekels for a man and 10 shekels for a woman. If anyone is too poor to pay the stated amount, he is to present the person to the priest, who will then set the value for him accordingly to what the person making the vow can afford. If he vowed an animal that is acceptable as an offering to God, the animal is given to God and becomes the property of the sanctuary. He must not exchange or substitute a good one for a bad one or a bad one for a good one. He, if dishonest, and makes a dishonest substitute, one animal for another, both the original and the substitute become property of the sanctuary. If what he vowed is a ritually unclean animal, one that is not acceptable as an offering to God, the animal must be shown to the priest, who will set its value, either high or low. Whatever the priest set will be its value. If the owner changes his mind and wants to redeem it, he must add 20% to its value. Mark chapter 10, verse 32 through verse 52. Back on the road, they set out for Jerusalem. Jesus had a head start on them, and they, the disciples, were following, puzzled and not just a little afraid. He took the 12 and began again to go over what to expect next. Listen to me carefully. We're on our way up to Jerusalem. When we get there, the Son of Man will be betrayed to the religious leaders and scholars. They will sentence him to death. Then they will hand him over to the Romans, who will mock and spit on him, give him the third degree, and kill him. After 3 days, he will rise alive. James and John, Zebedee's sons, came up to him. Teacher, we have something we want you to do for us. What is it? I'll see what I can do. Arrange it, they said, so that we will be awarded the highest place of honor in your glory, one of us at your right and the other at the left. Jesus said, you have no idea what you're asking. Are you capable of drinking the cup I drink, of being baptized in the baptism I'm about to be plunged into? Sure, they said. Why not? Jesus said, come to think of it, you will drink the cup I drink and be baptized in my baptism. But as to awarding places of honor, that's not my business. There are other arrangements for that. When the other 10 heard of this conversation, they lost their temper with James and John. Jesus got them together to settle things down. You've observed how godless rulers throw their weight around, he said, and when people get a little power, how quickly it goes to their heads. It's not going to be like that with you. Whoever wants to be great must be a servant. Whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. That is what the Son of Man has done. He has come to serve, not be served, and then to give away his life in exchange for many who are held hostage. They spent some time in Jericho as Jesus was leaving town, trailed by his disciples and a parade of people. A blind beggar by the name of Bartimaeus, a son of Timaeus, was sitting along the road. When he heard that Jesus the Nazarene was passing by, he began to cry out, Son of David, Jesus, mercy, have mercy on me. Many tried to hush him, but he yelled all the louder, Son of David, mercy, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped in his tracks. Call him over. They called him over. It's your lucky day. Get up, he's calling you to come. Throwing off his coat, he was on his feet at once and came to Jesus. Jesus said, What can I do for you? The blind man said, Rabbi, I want to see. On your way, Jesus said, your faith has saved and healed you. In that very instant, he recovered his sight and followed Jesus down the road. Psalm chapter 45, verse 1 through verse 17. A wedding song of the son of Korah. My heart bursts its banks, spilling beauty and goodness. I pour it out in a poem to the king, shaping the river into words. You're the handsomest of men. Every word from your lips is sheer grace, and God has blessed you so much. Strap your sword to your side, warrior. Accept praise, accept due honor. Ride majestically, ride triumphantly, ride on the side of truth, ride for the righteous meek. Your instructions are glow in the dark. You shoot sharp arrows into enemy hearts. The king's foes lie down in the dust, beaten. Your throne is God's throne ever and always. The scepter of your royal rule measures right living. Your love of the right and the hate of the wrong. And that is why God, your very own God, poured fragrant oil on your head, marking you out as a king from among other dear companies. Your forest-drenched garments are fragrant with mountain breeze. Chamber music from the throne room makes you want to dance. King's daughters are maids for your court, the bride glittering with gold and jewels. Now listen, daughter, don't miss a word. Forget your country. Put your home behind you. Be here. The king is wild for you. Since he's your lord, adore him. Wedding gifts pour in from Tyre. Rich guests shower you with presents. Her wedding dress is dazzling, lined with gold by the weavers. All her dresses and robes are woven with gold. She is led to the king, followed by her virgin companions. A procession of joy and laughter, a grand entrance to the king's palace. Set your mind on sons. Don't dote on father and grandfather. You'll set your sons up as prince all over the earth. I'll make you famous for generations. You'll be the talk of the town for a long, long time. Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. God's blessing makes life rich. Nothing we do can improve on God. This was the reading for March 2nd.